I arrived in the village under a waning sky, the lavender already harvested, the fields laid bare like parchment awaiting ink. The train had wheezed into the station as if reluctant to let me go, and for a moment I shared its hesitation. The countryside was a memory stitched together with scent and shadow, and stepping into it again, after all these years, felt like slipping into a half-remembered dream. I hadn't set foot in Saint-Rémy-des-Vents since I was a girl of 11. Now, in the stillness of my 72nd year, I had returned, not for adventure or escape, but because the old house had called to me in my sister's final letter. "You should come," Elisabeth had written with a trembling hand. "There are things in the attic I couldn't bring myself to touch. Perhaps they were meant for you." I found the key beneath the same stone where Papa had hidden it in the summers of my youth. The door groaned its protest, but gave way, revealing a hush of dust and cool stone and the scent of time and old paper. The shutters, once green, hung crookedly, letting slanted light fall in golden stripes across the tiled floor. Maman's armchair still sat by the fireplace, a wool shawl draped across it like a waiting cat. I did not cry, not then. The house seemed to hold its breath with me, as if we both needed time to reacquaint ourselves with each other's silences. It was the attic that whispered first. I waited 2 days before climbing the narrow stairs, letting the house speak to me in creaks and drafts, in the tap of apricot branches against the kitchen window. On the 3rd morning, I lit a candle and descended, my heart thudding with the trepidation of one about to open a childhood diary long buried. The attic smelled of cedar and secrets. Beneath a moth-eaten quilt lay a wooden trunk, edges worn smooth by time. I lifted the lid, half expecting dust to rise like a spirit. Inside, a bundle of letters tied with blue ribbon, a rusted tobacco tin, a faded photograph of a young woman on a bicycle, and a child's drawing of a farmhouse with smoke curling from the chimney. My name, Clémence, was scrawled in the corner in childish script. The first letter was addressed to Maman. "Gated 1943. Ma chérie," it began. "I made the drop last night beneath the mulberry tree. The boys say the landing was clean. We pray for rain. Cloud cover helps, but none came. I worry about the signal. I worry about everything." It was signed simply A. I read through the bundle slowly, each letter a mosaic piece revealing a secret portrait of my parents I had never known. My father had been part of a local resistance cell, relaying coded messages, hiding parachuted agents in the wine cellar. Maman, always so soft-spoken, had forged documents by candlelight, altering dates and names with the delicate precision she once applied to embroidery. Their courage had worn no uniform. It had worn aprons and gardening gloves. I wandered the village in the afternoons, letting my feet carry me down lanes that still remembered my footsteps. Madame Besson, who ran the bakery now, gave me a knowing nod. "You're Clémence, aren't you? Your mother once saved my cousin's life." She didn't elaborate, and I didn't press. The past here was a tapestry with frayed edges, and some threads resisted being tugged. The letters haunted me, not for what they said, but for what they implied. Names like Etienne and Lucie recurred with an intimacy that suggested closeness, perhaps even betrayal. I began to piece together the story with the stubbornness of a woman who had taught history for 40 years, but had never been taught her own. One evening, as cicadas sang their twilight song and the hills glowed with the last embers of sun, I returned to the attic. Beneath a floorboard, I found another tin. Inside, a resistance armband, a small pistol wrapped in oilcloth, and a letter addressed to me. My dearest Clémence, if you are reading this, then the house is yours, and the weight of its memories too. We never spoke of the war, your mother and I, not because we were ashamed, but because silence felt safer. There were choices made, some brave, some terrible. You were only a child, and we wished to spare you. But perhaps that was a kind of cowardice. There was a man named Etienne. He was your mother's brother, and he chose collaboration. It broke her heart, but she never stopped loving him. One night, he betrayed the cell. People died. Your mother never forgave herself for not seeing it coming. And yet, in the end, it was she who warned us. She risked everything to smuggle the map out. Without her, the landing would have failed. She saved more lives than she lost. Remember her for that. Your father, André. I sat in the attic until the moon rose, lavender gray and solemn. The weight of the past pressed upon me, but not with bitterness. Rather, it settled like a shawl across my shoulders. Heavy, yes, but warm. I thought of Maman's quiet strength, her love stitched into every letter, every loaf of bread handed to a stranger. In the weeks that followed, I painted the shutters the color of olive leaves, planted rosemary in the garden, and walked each morning to the edge of the lavender fields, where the air smelled of sun and memory. The villagers welcomed me with cautious affection, as though unsure whether I belonged to the past or the present. But over time, I found my place in their rhythm, buying bread in the mornings, sipping pastis in the square, nodding to the old men who played pétanque beneath the plane trees. One day, I visited the church. There, in a side chapel, was a plaque I had never noticed before, "À ceux qui ont résisté." Among the names, etched in modest bronze, were André and Hélène Rousseau, my parents. I traced the letters with my fingertips and wept, not for the pain, but for the quiet heroism I had only just begun to understand. The past is not a thing that can be folded and stored like linens. It breathes beneath the floorboards, hums in the wind that moves through the olive groves. It waits, patient and forgiving, for us to be ready. Now, each evening, I sit by the window with a glass of wine and watch the sun sink behind the hills. The moon rises in her lavender grace, casting silver across the tiled roofs. I think of Elisabeth, of Maman and Papa, of the secrets we keep and the truths we pass on. And I have come to believe that peace does not arrive with fanfare, but slips in quietly, like moonlight across a worn stone floor. Here, beneath the lavender moon, I have found it at last. If stories like this one, woven with memory, mystery, and quiet courage, speak to you, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this journey beneath the lavender moon, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the story with someone who cherishes the past as much as the present.